All right, so the next topic is going to be what we are calling the Environmental Recovery Act. This act will see drastic changes in Canadian government spending and policies, as well as laws regarding sales of items in Canada. We have a responsibility to do everything we can to reverse the effects or stem the effects of global warming. With this being said, the Environmental Act would see an immediate ban on the sale of all newly produced internal combustion engine vehicles in Canada. While the current fleet of internal combustion vehicles in Canada would be allowed to continue operating, no new internal combustion vehicles would be allowed to be added to the Canadian fleet of existing vehicles, and instead incentivizing all automakers to sell only zero emission vehicles in Canada, electric vehicles and EVs. By shifting the availability of new vehicles to only clean energy, we can advance the shift to sustainable energy significantly. It is the government's responsibility to do what is in the best interest of the people and not in the best interest of corporations. Corporations do not run the government. The government needs to control corporations and make sure they are not doing more harm than good to society. A government has a responsibility to the masses, not to the one percenters. And as such, Environmental Protection Act would see a repeal of the current carbon tax and the creation of a new carbon taxation system in which oil companies and other corporations producing large amounts of carbon would be severely taxed. This tax would remove the current carbon tax, which taxes individuals for use of things like gasoline and natural gas. It is not the fault of the end user that this is the technology and options which we have been given. As such, it should not be the end user's responsibility to pay for carbon emissions. This act would also see a stringent rule of laws put in place to prevent corporations from passing this new tax on to the end user. Any corporation found to be increasing their price or price of services to reflect the tax being charged will be charged and fined under this law and forced to repay all money overcharged to the end user. This will force a change to sustainable energies. The government will also stop funding immediately all projects relating to fossil fuels, creation of coal power plants, pipelines, oil projects, etc., and reshift the public funds to clean energy development, battery cell production, solar production, nuclear power production, and so forth. Incentivizing these industries by giving them tax breaks and increased incentives to continue to innovate new technologies that will bring us into a carbon neutral world. The idea behind this is to quickly and reasonably create a shift to sustainable energy and hopefully place Canada as a global leader in clean energy in which we can help influence and create a shift in the rest of the world. Climate change is a massive threat to us, and we do have time to prevent it, and that is what the purpose of this act would be. That being said, the details and how this tax should be applied will be open for public discussion, so we can best create a system that benefits the people while incentivizing new and innovative technologies and ideas. The goal would be to convert Canada as quickly as possible to a carbon zero country. For most people who have bought new internal combustion engine vehicles, you are most likely locked in a payment plan, owing money to a financier for your vehicle. We would also seek to create programs that can help people get out of said commitments to internal combustion engine vehicles and help them be able to make a shift to EVs. This can be accomplished in many ways. It is within the power of a government to force an automaker to recall a product when it poses a general threat to the safety and well-being of the end user. Such recalls in the past have been used to implement changes such as faulty airbags and things like that for the safety of the user. We would seek to create an environmental recall act, which would be set to take effect after a 4-year period. At this point, we would force automakers to recall all internal combustion vehicles produced within the last 8 years and either converting them to EVs, giving an individual an EV alternative, and or refunding any money left owing on the loan to allow the individual to purchase an EV. Internal combustion engine vehicles will not be allowed for resale as used vehicles after this point. Any and all internal combustion vehicles will be recycled and destroyed. It is important that the Canadian public have a say on this policy and program and everything it should entail. As such, this is a guideline of what we would hope to put into place. But the opinions and suggestions of the Canadian people must be taken into account. We are beholden to those we represent, the general public. A government should not be beholden to any corporate interests or any other interests from any influential individuals. A government's main priority and sphere of influence should be the people in which they serve. As such, corporate interests would become secondary to public interests. Corporations will be forced to change and adapt to a ever-evolving world as we move towards carbon neutrality and becoming a world leader in carbon reduction, and hopefully incentivizing other countries to follow in the same footsteps which we would take in order to create a better society for all humanity and curtail global warming. Climate change may yet be averted if we act quickly. There are a number of other problems, such as plastic pollutions, landfill pollutions, and other things that will have to be dealt with in this act. The basic outlines of such would be to eliminate as much plastic production as possible and incentivize investment in alternatives such as biodegradable alternatives and non-plastic alternatives. Plastic has created a pollution problem on this planet that we have to deal with as well. There are many problems in which we must deal with and that this act will be needing to cover.